pleased to welcome Brett today. It's wonderful, very privileged to have him on board. So just to give you a bit of context, I've been working with Brett for the last sort of 6 months or so, and he's a really impressive guy, got a great record, works with some excellent clients, and has got a really interesting story. He's been on a great journey to become that international high performance coach that he is today. So that's it. I'm just going to say, let's get started. I'll just hand over to Brett quickly to give us a little bit of insight into where he's come from, the journey that he's gone on, and then we can start to delve into that in a little bit more detail. So, Brett, just hand over to you. Do you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah, thank you for the for your intro. Actually, yeah, it's very pleasant. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm pleased to be here. So wow. So where do I start? Where do you want me to start? Should I right at the beginning?
Yeah, you go for it. Start at the beginning. Just give us a bit of a flavour of your background, and then
Okay.
what are the decisions that you've taken to get you to where you are today?
Yes. So I've been in this industry now for over 20 years. I initially started out as a electrician. So yes,
Yeah.
massive transition there. And that's a story for another podcast, I think. But yeah, so started as an electrician, hated my life, literally hated my life, hated my career, hated everything about what I was doing. How I got there really to become an electrician was in those days, it was in those days. I sound as though I'm a lot older than I am. In those days, it was get a trade, get a good trade behind you. So that's what I did. Carried on being an electrician until the day I hated it, decided I wanted to give it up, and I thought, well, where is my strengths? Where are my weaknesses and where are my strengths? And my strengths was people, good with people. And I was very good at getting customers, hated doing the job, but was very good at getting customers. And I really enjoyed the people. So I was the electrician who would go and spend 2 or 3 hours on a cup of tea and unveiling their future with it. It's crazy and coaching them already. And that's how I was kind of like, thought, well, psychology is a good route for me. So I decided to give up my electrical career and decided to go on a journey, become a psychologist. Didn't know what in that point, Stuart, at all. Didn't have a clue. Just thought I want to become a psychologist. Now,
Quite a big move, that, Brett.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a crazy move. When you look back, I mean, to be fair, when I look back and if knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have made that move as dramatic as I did because I sold the business. I gave everything up. I went from earning a decent amount of money to earning basically nothing to retrain again. So I had to, in order to do that, I went to get some experience. So I went to university, with Open University, to get a degree in psychology. But while I was doing that, to go and get lots of qualifications, lots of experience. I went and worked in a care home with the elderly, which was fantastic. I advise anybody to do that. It's one of the best things I've ever done and the best job. Worst paid, but the most rewarding. Went to work with abused children. That was the next bit. Then I went to work in a prison to get experience. And the reason I did these two really is so I could gain experience working with people at all different levels. And different walks of life, so I can get a good feel for human behavior, different walks of life, different psychologies, just different genetics, all these different things. So give me a better understanding of psychology.
We've got a real Brett there, haven't you, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, it was, did I need to do all of that when I look back? Probably not, but I wanted to, and I'm glad I did. It was a good choice. So then I still at this point thought to myself, do I want to be a psychologist? Do I want to go work in prison full time? Do I want to be cracker and be, the Robbie Coltrane cracker and going to be forensic psychologist? What do I want to do? But what I found was I really enjoyed the performance side of what I did. So it was more performance, more not looking back. Obviously with performance coaching, you still look back, but it was more of the taking somebody from A to Z or from A to F or whatever, or A to B. It wasn't somebody from really minus A to A, if you know what I'm saying. So I didn't really fancy the therapeutic route as much. I wanted more of the coaching and the performance. So I came out of prison, as it were. It says right. Came out of prison and then started to work in the corporate world, and started to really find my feet, working with a lot of lawyers, law firms, accountancy firms, CEOs, entrepreneurs. Really enjoyed it, and then thought, okay, well, this is really good. And what I was doing, I then went to work at the same time with a lot of elite athletes.
Yeah.
So obviously working with
So,
lawyers. Go on,
so
Stuart.
just got how did you go from sort of corporate to elite athletes? Quite a big jump.
I think the bigger jump, it's quite interesting that the bigger jumps was for me, really, to understand whether I could do that. I mean, I knew I was quite good at what I did, but to be quite honest, Stuart, I suffered quite, a lot with imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. I was just uncomfortable, to be fair. And because I was
Right.
still electrician in my head.
Yeah.
So I struggled with a lot. So I had to have a lot of help around that time. And that's, one of the reasons I started, getting out my own coach to help me overcome those things. So to answer your question, it's very simple where, because I was working in the corporate world, a lot of the lawyers I was working with were sports agents, were Hollywood agents, were actors agents. You get it, they were very much in the entertainment industry and the sports industry as well as the corporate world. So what I did, I kind of proved myself in the corporate world, proved myself with these lawyers and these agents, and I helped them. And then they were like, do you know what? You can help some of my athletes.
Some of your clients, yeah.
Yeah. You can help some of their clients, yeah. So you can help some of my, actors that I work with, because it's beneficial to our firm as well. And then that's when kind of got introduced to the sports world and the entertainment industry, really. And that's where I really found my feet, because I really enjoyed it, because it was all fast paced, high level, high performance,
A different world.
Yes, it's a very different world. Well, we say that. It is a very different world in one way, but in the other, it's the same as the business world, really. It's just, it's just different levels, really. I mean, they're doing the same type of thing, really. I mean, whether you're an elite boxer going for the world championship, or you're a CEO, going for that big business deal, very similar. The fear's still the same. So, but I really love that.
So I mean, just on that then, let's just look into the behaviours and steps that some of those elite athletes and actors, some of your clients take, and just and I guess the things that help them to get a high performance mindset, and how can we take those and help our CEOs, leaders, business owners, what can they learn from that? If I think about a recent client of mine, one of the sort of transitions he's had to make is from being a founder, setting up a software development business which has grown very quickly. So he's had a sort of set of behaviours, if you like. He's done things his way. He's got a growing team, but he's always been the decision maker. But the business has grown very quickly, and he's now got a leadership team. He's got other pressures to deal with, and he's had to change his daily habits, which actually have been quite a challenge for him, because he's so used to doing things his way and not always staying focused on the priorities. So just out of interest, how do your clients, so how do your sort of elite athletes, if you like, how do they stay focused? What are the sort of things that they build into their daily routine that help them to stay focused on those priorities? And how could someone like my client, how could they adopt some of those strategies?
I think the key word there is routine.
Right. Okay.
Now, there is one commonality, whether it's an elite athlete, whether it's a Hollywood actor, it's a CEO, doesn't matter. They all have, the most successful people I work with and who I have worked with, they have routines. And the routine starts the night before. So they have routines. It's almost like they're obsessed, Stuart. They're obsessed to the point where some of them actually think they've got OCD, purely because they have so many routines in their day. So I'll give you an example. Some of the athletes, some of the people I work with, their routine starts the night before, where they even get their clothes ready. I know it's just simple things. They get their clothes ready the night before. They know exactly what they're doing the next day. They don't leave anything to chance.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're eating, when they're eating it, what times they're eating it. And I mean, I know it sounds crazy. And this is not just elite athletes, by the way. This is some of the CEOs I work with, and some of the business people, and some of the Hollywood actors as well, where they measure what they're eating. They know what time they're going to the gym. They know what they're doing at the gym. They know what meetings they have in and how to prepare for those meetings. So every routine is like a ritual, and it's a daily. And seriously, since I've been in this field myself, I've adopted these myself.
Yeah.
And, I've lost 3.5 stone probably since I've been doing it. I know, 46 now, feel the best I've ever felt it just by adopting these small routines. Because,
And I guess,
go on, sorry, Stuart.
sorry, Brett. I was just going to say, I mean, if I think about myself as well, when I've got something coming up, I'm always much more comfortable when I've got my steps mapped out, as in, a bit like you say, the night before. I've packed the bag and, I've got the breakfast stuff ready. I know I've got enough, really simple things like I know I've got enough milk. I've ordered the taxi. I know what time the train is. All of this good stuff. If I've got anything there that's a little bit, I still need to sort it out. It causes a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress, which impacts the thing that I need to do. So whatever it is, whether it's meeting with a client, obviously having a chat with you today, it's taking away anything that might impact this conversation. And I guess it's something similar to that.
Absolutely. I mean, some of these people that I work with, they have some challenging days. But the first point is they're very organized. They have to be sure, they have to be organized. And like I say, it starts a day before because you know what you're doing. I mean, it's a standing joke in our house where my missus always thinks I'm a bit OCD with food. Like I've got some sort of eating disorder. I've not. I'm very meticulous with what I eat because I know how it affects me. So certain foods affect me, and it's just like my clients as well. Certain foods affect them at certain times. I mean, I have a nutritionist who I work with who tells me to eat things at certain times so my energy levels go up. So if I've got client meetings, I've got a busy day or I'm traveling, one side of the world, I have to eat certain things, and it's all come from the day before. And it's the same with, with CEOs, with any person in business, really. You've got to look after yourself, and as much as you can set these small routines up, the more successful you will be. And as I say, it doesn't matter if you're an elite athlete, a business person, or actor, it's exactly the same. And that's what I've said across the board, Stuart.
So with a CEO then, what would you say are a good set of routines for them to bed into their daily sort of schedule or their daily practice?
Well, definitely, I think planning and preparation is the key. Again,
Yeah.
planning and preparation. So from the night before, plan what you're doing, what the next day. I mean, I don't really go much further. I mean, obviously, I plan for a week or plan for a month or whatever, lightly or loosely to a certain extent. But the next day, plan out completely. Number one, get up early. I mean, there's a book by Al Alrod, I think his name is, and it's called The Miracle Morning. Brilliant book. And it talks about the benefits of getting up early and having a morning routine. This book changed my life, to be fair, because now I get up early, just like my clients do. They get up early, they go to the gym, they eat the right things, and then they know what they're doing next. So getting up early, going to the gym is another good thing. Getting on a treadmill for 20 minutes, going for a walk for 20 minutes in the sunlight, or even when the mornings are not great, still going for a walk wakes you up, gets you in that right frame of mind. It sets you up for the day, and that is critical. And one thing I can say, everyone I work with, they are early birds. They get up early. That's not by accident that they're all successful and they all get up early. They all get up early. It's one of the reasons they're successful, because they have that. It's embedded into their routine.
Well, I guess there's a commitment to getting up early because there's times when we don't want to do it, but also it's quality time, isn't it? I mean, I get up early, and for years, I used to commute. So I used to get the train early in the morning. I used to get picked up about 5:30 and then get on the train into London, which was about a 2-hour trip. And actually, I used to enjoy that time because it was really calm, really peaceful, and it allowed me to really focus my mind and it just gave me that quality time that I could dedicate to myself. So whether it would be preparing for something I was going to be doing that day, or doing a few little jobs that I had, or a whole after thing. And also when the chance was there to go and do a bit of exercise, and it was all about looking after myself and preparing myself for the challenges that the day was going to bring. I knew that once I hit the ground, I'd be in a much better place than, if I'd got up later and I hadn't had that quality time to dedicate to myself and really focusing my energy and my mind. So I guess it's and then I wrote a post recently actually about successful people, and as you say, the successful people are people who get up early. They use that time, and they're slightly, they got a better chance. They're ahead of the game. They've already started when people are waking up. They've already been, on it for a bit of time already. So it makes a lot of sense to do that. And as you
Yeah.
say, it's a commitment.
Well, if you think about it, the way I used to talk about it actually when I used to do seminars was, if you can get up 2 hours earlier than what you do now, maybe 2 hours is a bit of a stretch, but maybe, that's an extra, 14 hours a week. That's potentially 2 days extra you get.
Yeah.
So you will work that over a month, you work that over a year, you work that over, that's like extra probably 10 years to your life of more productivity, more focused time, more time for you. That in itself is worth doing. Just that alone will make the biggest difference.
A big difference. Yeah. Do the things. And I guess the other thing is doing the important stuff when you're feeling fit, when your energy level, I mean, you mentioned this about eating and all that good stuff, but when your energy level's there, when you've got a clear mind, you haven't got clustered with the stuff that comes further down the line in the day, you're not tired, you're really sharp. And it doesn't matter if you tail off at the end of the day, you've already done it. And it's really important, I think, to do those important tasks when you're feeling good and feeling sharp. And as you say, get up early, look after yourself, get that balance, and then you can focus your mind at the right time on the important stuff, the priorities. And then the day can unfold as it comes, but you're in a good place. So we talked about planning, we talked about preparation, we talked about getting up early. So before we move on, anything else that you'd add to that?
Yeah, obviously planning, preparation, organizing, even with travel, little things with travel. I mean, I'm a big advocate of, being there, because, being there early, and because I know it's the simplest things, but they make the biggest difference. Like, if you've got to travel somewhere, it's basic.
You don't want to be late. Oh,
Don't be
yeah.
late. No, that it could be late. I mean, I travel all around, as you know, and I am usually an hour early.
Yeah.
And I'll sit in the coffee
Stay.
shop. I'll sit in the coffee shop for an hour, but not just because I'm early to be on time, because I can gather my thoughts, I can calm myself, I can get into the zone, I know what we're talking about, I know how we're going to, attack it. And when I turn up for that meeting, I'm bringing my A game. And that's what my client deserves, my A game. So I'm going to
Yeah.
bring that. And they get the best out of it. And, little things like that, just play, it all comes from planning and preparation. The day before,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually
Did
think the day before is really, the night before, should I say, not the day before, the night before is the one takeaway that I would actually get your listeners to implement. Plan everything the day before, the night before. Because if you do, you just know what you're doing. I mean, I put my calories for the next day in the day before. I put my gym routine the day before. Everything's the day before. Because then I wake up, I know what I'm doing. And as you know, in the morning when you wake up, the will hit you. The will hit
Yeah.
you
Oh, absolutely.
on.
Well, it's so fast moving, There's things that come in left field, and it's very easy to get distracted, isn't it? And as you say, not get distracted from the priorities. And if you're calm and focused, and you've already got that clear route, you know where you want to get to, and it's much easier to deflect and stay focused on the priorities. Whereas if you haven't got that clarity, you can get sucked up into stuff that you don't need to get sucked up into. You can lose, a view of where you want to get to, and subsequently the day can become a bit of a non-event, and not bring what it could, and you might miss an opportunity. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
I mean, just to clarify, not just to clarify, just give you an example of actually the importance of it for a CEO. I worked with a CEO once, and
Yeah,
it's quite interesting where he was in the office, and a lot of people was quite intimidated by him,
yeah,
quite scared, if you like, and they feared him a little bit. Not because he was mean, it's because he was a bit moody. And when we got
right,
to
okay,
work together, he was absolutely a lovely guy, fantastic guy, inspirational, motivational. However, when I was in the office with him, I could actually see what the staff meant. And it's because he wasn't organized. So what would happen is he'd get up in the morning a little bit late, he'd be rushed.
yeah,
Then all the stuff for the day would sit on his shoulders as a big weight. He'd get to the office and he'd be quite snappy and moody. So what we did, we removed all of that stuff, got him prepared, got him organized, got him focused. And what happened? And what happened then? It lifted. He would go into the office, and he'd been awake for a lot longer. So when he got into the office, he was prepared and he was happier. People just thought, "What's happened to him?" These small changes.
and I guess he could concentrate in the moment. It's got everything
Absolutely.
ready, so I can listen to you, and I can ask you questions, and I can concentrate in the moment rather than thinking about this thing that I should be doing or need to do, and I need to get to the office to get it all organized. I don't need to worry about that because I'm already there.
Yeah.
No, I mean that
Absolutely.
makes it sense, doesn't it? Right, I'm just conscious we've got a few other things to cover here, Brett. So I'm just going to move on. And I was talking to a client of mine recently who is chief exec, and I just said to him, I said, "What's it like to be chief exec?" And he said, "Uncomfortable." And he said, "Stuart, it's uncomfortable. Everything about it is uncomfortable because you always have to make the decisions. There's lots of things you don't know. Obviously, you've got the pressures of looking after a team. You're answerable to, in his case, he's got external investors, so he's got their weight on his mind, and that feeling of being uncomfortable is very prominent. But he also said that he knows that that's the difference. By getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, he knows that he's on the right path because the nature of what he does is all about that. Everything is it's always taking him to that next level. So he has to manage that. And one of the things that we've spent a lot of time doing is just working through what that looks like and coming up with some strategies that help him to deal with that, so that it doesn't, eat him up, and it doesn't stop him from dealing with the unknown and dealing with, not being successful and various other things like that. So I just wondered, from again coming back to your sort of scenario and your situation, the relationship that you've got with your client, um, how do they manage those high pressure sort of situations? How do they deal with that feeling of being uncomfortable, stepping into the unknown? And what can people in business, what can, your business owner, my client, for example, what could they learn from that?
So, yeah, it's a very good point, and I see these all the time. In fact, this is not a book plug. However, I'm actually writing a book on this very thing, and it's called New Levels, New Devils. It's about every time you go up a level, you feel more uncomfortable and how to deal with that. So, to answer your question now, Stuart, is the first part of this podcast, what we were talking about, that, that preparation the night before, that feeds into this answer.
Yeah.
So being prepared every situation, being prepared the night before, getting your eating right, all of these different things makes a massive difference to part one of this question. Right? Now, part two of it, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is the key. Now, my clients, what they understand is they don't see it as being uncomfortable. So your client there is quite, very self-aware.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients don't see it as uncomfortable. They see it as something else. It shows up as something else. So it shows up as maybe imposter syndrome. It shows
Right.
up as, a fear that they're not good enough, all of these different things. So what I do with my clients is I help them to understand that they're just stepping out of their comfort zone, and you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And how to deal with that is to acknowledge where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Right? Acknowledge, let's separate the fact from the fiction. The fact is that you're just feeling uncomfortable. Why are you feeling uncomfortable? You're feeling uncomfortable because you are fearful of something. So
Yeah.
let's have a look at it. What are you fearful of? And let's address these things, because, the fear, it's not as bad as what we make it, in our heads. You see all the time, and I see all the time. So if I can help them understand what they're actually fearful of and take that fear away, or help them to take that fear away, they become more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what I can tell you, doesn't matter what level you're at, that will always be there. There's a chapter of a book called the Success Paradox, which every level you go up, this fear, it doesn't get better. It actually gets worse. Because when you first start out, it's the fear of, when they see you and your CEOs or the entrepreneurs first start out, or it doesn't matter who you are, the fear of failure. But then it becomes all of a sudden the fear of falling. It's fear of falling, or it's the fear of rejection, all of these different things, fear of losing it all. But getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's the answer. And we delve deep into there. Why are you fear? But the fear's normal.
Yeah.
It's innate.
And we all have fear, as you said.
Absolutely.
It can be something as simple as, going to do a presentation as an example. I've got to do a presentation to a team, and I know I've got a really good presentation. I know my stuff, but rather than concentrating on the sort of delivery of that, you get eaten up by the fact that, will I follow it to the T? Will I remember this point? Will I deliver it in the way that I need it to land? And that fear can eat you up to the point that it affects your performance. So you've almost, you've set yourself up to fail before you've even actually delivered it. So I think that's a big key, isn't it? I mean, just coming back to my client a little bit. One of the things for him in that role was about a change of mindset. So more about creating an environment that enabled other people to be successful. So rather than um, having all the answers or feeling that he should have all the answers. It was more about recognizing that everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and what I want to do in my team is maximize that. So my role is less about having the answers and getting it right, and more about creating this vision, if you like, this direction, and then empowering my team so that as a collective group, we go on that journey and we embrace the steps that we take. So, we work backward from where we want to get to. We've identified some steps that we're going to take. We've tried them out. We've recognized they haven't worked. So we've ticked the box. We feel comfortable with that. Now let's try something else. So it's a very sort of iterative process. And rather than losing confidence or feeling, as you said, uncomfortable with that process, feeling confident that we're moving forward, because for everything that doesn't quite go to plan or something that doesn't quite deliver in the way that we expect it to, it's actually something that we can tick off the list, and then we can concentrate on the next thing. And in doing that, we're narrowing our options, we're building our level of understanding, our knowledge, and all of that good stuff, which is a positive as opposed to a negative. And I guess the mindset bit is quite important there.
Absolutely. It's key. It's critical.
Right. Right. Well, just the next bit, goal setting. So again, another one for me. And I work with a client. He's got a financial services business, and he came to me and he had a vision. He wanted to get his business to a place where he and his wife could take a sabbatical for a year. They wanted to go traveling, but he wanted to obviously leave his business. It was growing. It was in a good place, healthy, but he wanted to get his team to a position where he had confidence that they could basically run his business and keep it at that level, and grow as well. Whilst he was away, he could take his mind off it and go and have a good time, basically. So we started to work through that. And one of the things that actually came up was there were some things that he needed to do. There were some decisions he needed to make long before we got to that place. And what became obvious was that he was not very good at, I say not very good, but he was uncomfortable with dealing with those decisions. And subsequently, the goals that he set himself were these big, grand goals, but he hadn't actually stripped them back to the small steps, the small goals that he needed to take that were more immediate, that would then lay the foundation for him to enable, to go on and realize his vision. I just wondered, again, thinking about your experience and the types of people that you're working with, your client, how do they set goals? And how important is that goal setting process? And again, how could someone like my client, how could they learn from that?
The key thing, Stuart, some of the people who I work with, they are, world champion boxers, international football players who won big trophies, Hollywood actors who won big trophies, being nominated for big trophies and actually won them. Now, their goal probably wasn't to win an Oscar, probably wasn't to win the Euros, or wasn't probably to win, to become world champion. Well, actually, he probably was to become world champion. It wasn't. Some of the goals immediately wasn't that big. There were big goals, but there weren't huge goals. So, yes, it's an interesting question. Now, from what I have seen, from the people that I work with, they are very guilty, and I'm very guilty of this as well, of setting goals that are too big for me at that time. Yeah. I'm a big believer. Don't get me wrong here. I'm a massive believer. You reach for the moon, at the very least, you land among the stars. I do believe that. However, you got to get real as well. Now, I'm not saying a world champion, I'm not saying a boxer can't set a goal to become world champion one day, but setting a goal to be world champion in a year when you're just starting out is a big ask. Same as
It's
a
a bit
banker,
unrealistic, isn't it? Yeah.
same as a footballer. So, yes, you can have the big goals. So you've got to have the big goal, but you've got to work backwards. So
Yeah.
what my clients mainly do, this is where we do a lot of work on Stuart, to be honest, is having manageable goals.
Yeah.
And we set them, we set goals for, maybe a 5-year goal. I mean, very, very few clients we've got a 10-year goal. So it's 5-year 5-year goals usually.
Yeah.
Then it goes down to 3 years, then
Yeah.
1 year, then 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, a week, and a day.
A day.
So it's quite detailed. And it's the same with me. I do exactly the same. But these goals we manage because it can become overwhelming.
Yeah.
Do you know?
So give me an example then. Give me an example, say for a footballer that you work with. Give me an example of a goal that they might have for a day and a goal they might have for 6 months.
Okay, so a goal for the day will be, do you know what? My goal for the day is to eat. I mean, it starts with that, eat what I'm meant to be eating and perform at my best for the day in training. It also will be, another goal for that day will be to spend a couple of hours away from my job,
Yeah.
spend with family, might be to read a book, and it might be to play with their kids. But
Yeah.
they set goals because if they don't set it in, it doesn't happen. So that goal there, that small goal, even though big impact, the accumulation of these goals daily makes a big impact. So from a daily point of view, eat well, that might be their goal. I mean, going to the gym's a given, obviously, because that's what they do all day. Well, not all day. They train as well.
Perform to the best of their ability. Yeah.
Perform the best of their ability, and spend time with their kids. And if they've got none, spend time with their wife or partner, or do a bit of something for them. That's their day. Then the 6-month goal it could be to score. If you're a striker, it might be, I want to score. I want 10 goals within this 6 months, or I want 15 or 20 goals within this 6 months. I also want to have so many Champions League goals.
I mean, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because there's so many variables there. There's so many factors in scoring 10 goals. And there's if you think about recent sort of situations where you might have had a really good season, you might be in a really good place, and then you get a change at the club or something, new manager or whatever, or you get injured, or they buy someone else, and suddenly all that goal setting, which you've absolutely done to the best of your ability, you've been totally committed, you've exceeded all that good stuff, but based on the opinion of someone else, or a decision that someone else made, which is out of your control, the outcome that you want to achieve as a result of your goal can be taken away, and that's a really tough one. I mean, I guess for your client particularly, that must cause a lot of frustration and a lot of stress, I would imagine. How does that fit into goal setting?
Recognize, first of all, Stuart, to recognize what it is. It's out of their control.
Yeah.
All they can do is control themselves and what they're doing. Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't frustrate. I'm not saying it doesn't bother them. Clearly it does. However, they can't control the unknown variables. All they can control is, they set themselves a goal. They achieve that goal. That's all they can do. And if that, off the back of that, means they score more goals, they get picked for the team, that's great. But 9 times out of 10, if they're hitting their goals,
Yeah.
then, they can't control what the manager thinks. Not really. The only way they can control what the manager thinks is if they perform on the pitch, on and off the pitch, actually, not just on the pitch, on and off the pitch. And then, the rest is up to the manager. There's nothing they can do. But that fear and that frustration does kick in there, and
Yeah.
but it's minimized by the conversations that we have is, well, you've achieved your goals. You've set your goals. You're doing your goals every day. You're hitting your goals every day. You're hitting your goals this month, this quarter. You're doing everything that you've said you're doing. You're doing the best of your ability. So that's almost helps them to sleep at night, and it takes
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
some of that frustration. Yes, it's still frustrating, but that's out of their control. There's nothing they can do about it.
And how do they, because I guess another thing, and this is something that is fairly consistent with successful people. You set a goal, you achieve it, but you're already on to the next one. So you never really step back and give yourself that time to, well, celebrate your success, really. Recognize it. You've gone on that journey. So a big tick in the box because, you started at the beginning, you mapped out what you wanted to do, you worked out the steps you needed to take, and you've got there. So well done. That's a big achievement. But often they're already on to the next things. So they never really give themselves that time to actually recognize the achievement, recognize the steps they've taken, and give themselves some credit. And often, I guess, you can get taken up with the times when it doesn't happen, or the fear, as you say, if you mentioned that it might not work. So it's really important, and certainly I say this to my client, is to recognize the time, the process that you've followed, and actually, irrespective of whether you achieve the goal or not, the fact that you've committed to it, you've stepped forward and you've followed those steps is a big achievement in itself, and it's important that you recognise that. So how do your clients? How does an actor, for example, do they give themselves time to celebrate their success?
Not before they work with me. Now, I'm a big, and the reason I say that, because I am a huge, I'm always trying to reinforce. In fact, the key word being reinforce their results so far.
Yeah.
Because what we do, or what I do, is I help my clients, every success they have, we build on that last success.
So when you
So that-
say that, how would you do that?
okay. So let me give you an example of I'll use a Hollywood actor for argument's sake, yeah? So since
Yeah.
you're on the act, you asked me the question with the actor. So an actor. So a lot that comes up for the actor, if they hit their goals day in, week in, month out, they're doing everything they can do. They can't control. All they can control is what job they go for, what role they go for. They can't control the casting director's opinion. It's out of their control. So a lot of fear of rejection comes in, all these different things come in. So it's critical for my clients who are actors to understand that first and foremost. Now, every time they are successful, they get a new role,
Yeah.
for argument's sake, they have the same fear. So every audition they go for, they still have the same fear. No matter if they get the job, the last job they had, when they go for a new audition, they still have that same fear. So what I do, I bring them back to the same feelings that they had at that time. So what we'll do is go back and say, well, you felt like this before. You had these same feelings before. And look what happened. Look how well the movie went. Look how well you were received. Look how well you was perceived. Look at all these different things. Look how well the movie did. But you had these fears before, and look how successful you've become. So we build on that. Now, next time they go for that audition, they go, this is great. Part of the process. It's part of the process. And I get them to own it. So every time they go up, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So the story they tell themselves becomes very different. So when the young actor I'm working with, for argument's sake, their story is, before I start working with them, is, I might not get this role. I might not get this job. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be rejected. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. But then after they start to accept, to get roles, we change the narrative. And the narrative and the new story is, actually, I am good enough because I have done this. I am doing this and I'm doing it better each time. And that builds on, Stuart, from each time. And that's why we have to recognize the success. You
Yeah.
have to. I do it myself. I have to. Do you know what I mean? There's
Oh,
days.
definitely.
There's
Yeah. I
days.
mean, me is, yeah.
There's
Going
days where I
forward.
wake
Yeah.
up. There's days where I wake up and the world hits me like a ton of bricks. In fact, only a couple of weeks back, it did the same. Woke up and I thought, oh, I was overwhelmed. I wasn't very well. And I thought, where am I going? What am I doing? Hit me like a ton of bricks. And then what I do practice what I preach. And I had that moment, got up early, had a couple of hours on my own. And had a look where I am today. What I've achieved, what my goals were, my alignment, and gone, do you know what? Look where I am. Oh, I wanted this life. I wanted it. And it was a milestone for me, and it helped me, re-energized me, and it brought me back in line, to be quite honest. So to answer your question, it's that reinforcement. So addressing the successes, critical, and it doesn't matter if you're an elite athlete, exactly the same. Let's have a look at the evidence. What evidence do you have to back up that you are, you're doing well?
Yeah. I mean, an interesting stat actually is they say that I think it's something like 82% of chief execs feel unprepared for that role. They feel like they haven't got the basically they're not up to the role. So they're already anxious before they start. And I think to your point, recognizing your successes and, as you say, even small steps. I mean, an achievement in the day, you set yourself a target, you've done it, tick the box, well done. That sort of review process at the end of the day is so important because it helps to transform that mindset from being fearful and all the things that you've talked about and anxious, which, it takes your energy and detracts you from moving forward and just build that confidence. And if we say this, you think back to, when you're at school and whatever, the hardest time is when you do it first of all. So you're stepping into the unknown, you've not done it. So inevitably you're going to be more anxious then. But once you've done it once, the next time will be a little bit easier. And if in the midst of that, you can build into that the learnings that you take and also the recognition of those successes, then it becomes much more fluid. It becomes you're a lot more comfortable with it. And I guess the other bit, I mean, to your point with your actor is, it's not been about them. And actually, is this role good enough for me?
Absolutely. And this big part we work on. I mean, one of the things I do with my clients as well, Stuart, is talk about, don't fear failure. Do you know what I mean? Let's reframe it. Failure isn't failure, it's feedback.
Yeah.
It's feedback.
And the fact that in order to fail, you have to commit to do something.
Absolutely.
And that in itself is a big achievement. You've been brave enough to go and give it a go. So first of all, let's recognize that. Then let's reflect and learn and go again. I mean, it's a big one, that, isn't it? It's a big one.
Absolutely. Especially for actors. I mean, the rejection is, there could be 1,000 people in the waiting room to go for an audition. Think about this. Talk about rejection. Talk about pressure. 1,000 people who all look the same as you, because that's what the role is required. Same height, same look, same everything. And they only want one person. And you all have to perform kind of like you can hear them in the other room. Yeah. And then you're told you're not tall enough, you're not blonde enough, you're not good looking enough.
Yeah.
You go, so I do.
And you've got to walk out of the room then and look at
all the other people.
Wow, dear.
But
you got to be tough for that, haven't you?
Embrace failure. You got to embrace failure and looking at it as feedback. So just like if you think about it this way, if you think about these actors, every audition, I reframe it and say every audition you go, stop putting that much pressure on yourself, and all you've got to look at it as it's another opportunity to act.
Yeah,
it's another opportunity to learn. There's no failure. You're not going to fail. It's feedback. You're going to get feedback what you maybe could have done better, and you're going to take that forward and keep going until, I've got clients who have had thousands and thousands of auditions before they became big. Thousands and
And that,
thousands.
yeah, I mean, that must be tough, mustn't it? There comes a point where you start to doubt yourself, but I guess out of failure comes opportunity, and it's
Absolutely.
sticking with it, believing it, having that belief to
But just
stick
like
with it.
the
But
CEOs that you work with, Stuart, just like these business owners that you work and I work with, they've had failure after failure after
yeah,
failure, but they haven't stopped, else they wouldn't be in the position they're in. They probably looked at it, probably not the way we're describing it now. They probably were knocked, but they carried on regardless.
yeah.
And they will continue to, it's feedback, or what could I do better? What could I do?
And I mean, I guess often, certainly with, again, quite a few of my clients and myself as well, if I think where I started as a coach and the journey that I've gone on, where things haven't quite gone to plan, you reflect, you learn, you go again, or you pivot. There's an opportunity that comes up, and you think, actually, I'm going to take this decision, which is not necessarily that straight road. So if I look back and think about the journey personally that I've been on, it's there's lots of twists and turns in it, but it's through those experiences and those learnings that have led me to, the next step, which is not always the step that I planned, but I feel a lot more comfortable with that step because it's come out of, the experiences that I've had and also the learnings that have come about. So it gives me more confidence to take that step, which is a biggie, isn't it?
Absolutely. As I say, no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Yeah.
And if you can embrace that again to your CEOs, there's no such thing as failure, just feedback. Fail forward. Fail
Yeah. Well, I
forward,
mean,
keep failing.
it's an agile world, isn't it? It's an iterative world. It's about lining yourself up, having the big vision, but small steps, fail quickly, recognize it, and then go again.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, I'm just conscious of time, Brett. We've got a lot.
That's all right.
We could talk for a long time on this. There's a lot to cover. But just another. I was thinking about another client of mine. So they were an advertising services business. He got external investment, and there was a bit of a disconnect with his team. And they started to. I mean, there's another interesting stat here. They say 79% of your team will leave because of you, as in the leader, because there's a bit of a breakdown in communication. There's a feeling of, a lack of appreciation, which is really important for people. And in this case, my client was, on the one hand, their business was really growing, external investment, which is great, and it was going to that next level. And it was quite exciting for him because it took him into a whole new world. But what he didn't do, certainly initially, was take his team with him. And by his team, I mean his senior leadership team, but also the rest of the business. And it actually impacted. It came back and impacted the performance of his business because whereas before they'd been quite a tight unit, suddenly they weren't. So some of the work that I did with him was helping him to reconnect with that team. And so we did a little bit of work around, building out a strategic narrative that fit the new direction, getting him to spend a bit of time one-to-one with the senior leadership team and helping them to plan out their bit of the strategy, as in how are they going to execute it and deliver it. And then the next bit was agreeing to the principles. And then the next bit was taking them to the rest of the organization and getting them to take those principles and feed into the mission and the values of the organization or the business. And what that helped to do was sort of re-energize. It motivated people. They had a sort of a common goal, if you like, a common purpose. So it brought them back on board. I just wondered, from your perspective, I mean, we've touched on some of the tough situations that some of your clients find themselves in, which often are out of their control. How do they deal with the motivation struggles? What steps do they take that perhaps my clients and other people who are listening, how could they leverage that to their advantage?
So it's an interesting question because I don't believe in motivation. Well, when I say I don't believe in motivation, that seems a bit soft, actually. I do to a certain extent. Now, let me give you an example. In fact, not most, all of my clients, they're only, me included, I'm only motivated for a small period of time. I'm not motivated all the time. Let's be honest. I got up this morning. Am I motivated to go to the gym? Absolutely not. My clients, doesn't matter how successful they are they motivated to do what they're doing? Absolutely not. Not all the time. So aiming for motivation for me and with my clients, I think it's, you're setting yourself up for failure really in a way, because I think motivation is short lived. Now, what you can do that can buy a motivation is consistency. Be consistent in your approach all the time. So, me this morning, I didn't want to go to the gym. I'm not motivated to go to the gym in the morning. But what I did is like, well, do you know what? That's my hour to go to the gym and end the conversation, full stop. I don't want to go, but I never want to go to the gym, but I never regret going to the gym. So it's that consistency and setting these small being consistency with my goals, being consistent with my life. Yeah. That gives me, as your podcast is, the competitive edge. Because, as I say, motivation, come on. Sometimes, I hear this quite a lot. Do you really think one of my boxing clients is motivated to get into the ring sometimes?
Get into the ring, yeah.
A lot of people see it on TV, them fighting, and that's a really hard match. What they don't see is everything they have to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was at a fight only few weeks back, actually, the Anthony Joshua fight, and somebody said to me, £20 million for 5 minutes in the ring. And I'm like, you fool.
I want to get in there, I must say.
Well, no, it's £20 million. No, it's not.
Yeah.
£20 million for a lifetime of hard work and dedication. But was that from motivation? Not all the time, a little bit of the time. But it was consistency, doing the things that needed to be done at the times he didn't want to do them. So, again, I'm a bit loose with this word motivation because, most of my clients, we talk of they're not motivated, not all the time.
That consistency.
It's about consistency.
And actually, that's a good one, because another client I'm working with at the moment, actually, they're going to, well, I say a restructure, but science. Basically, they're redefining what they're about. So I'm working with the CIO and come up with a vision for the team. And it's in some respects, it's quite easy to build out this positive narrative and build out this exciting picture. And it's a bit like, the 20 million stepping in the ring and all the gold stars and all that good stuff. But the real bit, and this is the bit that I've been working with my client on, the start is easy. People will hear it, but where people really get it, and what's really important is that he actually walked the talk. So we've identified some steps. So we've painted this picture of the future. All looks good. Now it's about showing that I'm actually committed to it. And in being committed to it, I'm going to do those things, like you say, about going to the gym and all those unattractive steps. But I need to do them because people are going to be looking, and I need them to come on board. So, and I need them to be consistent. I need them to commit to those things that, we don't like doing. But it's really important that he, in his role, is consistent, and he turns up every day, and he's consistent in his behavior. He's consistent in the way that he talks to people, and he communicates, and he engages, and he shows that commitment. Because the minute he starts to waver in that, then, people start to look at it and go, you know what? I'm not sure that he's really on board with that. So why should I get on board with it? There's going to be some tough steps along the way. So, you know what? he's not doing it, so I'm not going to do it. And I find that your point there about consistency is so important, particularly from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, and what helps with the consistency is, whether your goals are in line with your why and your purpose. I'm not really, motivation does come into it slightly where, you are more motivated if you've got for argument's sake, if I'm going on holiday, which coming next April abroad. So I'm thinking, well, okay, well, I've got my goal is to get to a certain weight, to get, muscle strength to a certain thing. I'm a little bit more motivated to get that body. So in the morning, I've got a goal, I've got a why it's attached to it. So I'm a bit more motivated, but
To look fantastic. You want to look fantastic on the beach, Brett.
absolutely. But I know that motivation will last a week. Just like, after Christmas, I go to the gym, I'm going to build a physique. The motivation lasts a week. Then it's about consistency. It's about continue doing it when you don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean that one about the after Christmas. I mean, I was reading somewhere that, and this is really true, but nearly all of us set a New Year's resolution, but by week 3, it's fallen off the radar. If you write it down, it goes up to, I think, about 30% chance of you sticking with it. If you write it down and you share it with someone, it goes up to about 60%. If you write it down, you share it with someone, and when I say share it with someone, I mean someone like you and I, a coach, and then you have some milestones, the consistency bit in there that person that you're sharing it with can challenge you on, it goes up from 60% to about 90%. So if you think about it, you set yourself a New Year's resolution, but you don't tell anyone about it and you don't write it down. Well, 3 weeks later, it's gone. You're on to the next thing. You write it down, it goes up a bit. You share it with someone who's going to keep asking the question, how are you getting on with that? Are you still doing it? Goes up again. But you really think through that goals. You plan out some of those things that will enable you to achieve it. And then you have that person who's going to keep challenging you on it and helping to, challenge yourself. You're much more likely to be successful at it. And I think, that's one of the biggest values of having a coach, I think, is that you've got that person who understands you, understands where you're coming from, understands where you want to get to, and can help to keep that, that sort of scrutiny, that stop you from falling off falling away from your from the goal that you've set. And I think that's really important. So, I mean, actually on that, I say, just before we bring it to a close, because I know we've had a really good chat, Brett, and we could keep going on this, and I'm sure we'll come back and do it again because there's lots more to talk about. But I'm just interested because obviously you got all these high performing clients, athletes, actors, really impressive people. But what value does a coach bring to these high performers? So why should, if I'm, for example, if I'm a top chief exec, I'm doing really well, my business is growing, everything is good. Why should they listen to this and say, you know what, be really good? I haven't got a coach in the moment. Everything's good, but so why should I go and get a coach? So I'm just interested to hear, because I've got a view, but I'll be interested to hear what your view is and also how your client perceive that. So what value does a coach bring to these high performers?
It's quite an interesting question. I mean, I have a few different views on this, if I'm completely honest. I mean, when I first started out, when I changed career, the idea of me having a coach was ridiculous. Don't know what it is, don't know what it's going to do. I can do it myself. I haven't got a clue. Do you know what the industry is about? I'm not interested. I can manage myself. I'm the architect of my own life. Forget that. I don't need somebody telling me what to do. That's where I was 12 or 20 years back. And that cost me thousands and countless. In fact, it could have cost me millions potentially. It cost me a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of headspace and a lot of damage from not having a coach. So where I was then, I kind of didn't believe in coaching. And then I started to understand the value of coaching. And then one of the reasons I became one in the first place. But so that's one viewpoint I have on it, where I didn't actually believe in it. So I'm not somebody who's going to go, oh, have a coach, have a coach, have a coach all the time. I want to make that statement of saying I actually didn't believe in them. I lived life without a coach, and I saw the impact without it. And then I've lived life with a coach, and it's worlds apart. So that's there. So I do believe having a coach personally is the key. I mean, I have a coach for fitness, I have a coach for my performance, I have a business, I have multiple coaches because I think it's critical. Now, for my clients, an interesting one, because I work with high profile people, when I mention or if somebody asks me what I do and I say what I do, they often say, well, that's interesting. Why do these people need a coach? Because they're already very successful. And my answer to that is, it's not all me, but one of the reasons they are so successful is because they have a coach.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, I guess sorry, Brett, I didn't mean.
Now you carry on.
I guess, successful people have coaches.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, like people, look at it and go, oh, they're successful. Why do they need a coach? No, actually, they're successful because they have a coach.
Yeah.
Not just because, there's many reasons why. However, all the successful people I know have had some sort of coaching or have a coach. And because if you're inside the bottle, you can never read what's on the label. So with my clients, it's almost they're swimming in like a fish swimming in a pond, in a bowl.
Yeah.
They're just swimming in their own stuff, and having somebody external to challenge them on their thought process, giving them tools, helping them to step out their comfort zone and to know it's a comfort zone, to understand what fear is holding them back, to challenge them when nobody else will. I mean, I often say to my clients, don't work with me, if you're scared of being challenged, because I'm going to challenge you, because that's what you want. Do you know what I mean? If you continue to do the same stuff, you'll always get planned results. Let me challenge you. So to answer your question, having a coach is huge. There's no coincidence. All successful people in the world have one.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it says it. You can't argue with the results there, can you?
Absolutely.
I mean, just on your point about the whole sort of bottle syndrome. I mean, one of the things that I say to my clients is to get insight, you need to step away and make a bit of space out of the environment in which you're operating. Because as you said, it's very difficult to see things differently when you're actually, in the midst of it. So that's one of the things that I always say to my client, and the benefit that they get from that is either they are able to see a different way, or they get comfortable with the decision that they're taking, so that there's like a sense of validity of the choice that they've made. They can keep things in perspective, because it's very easy to blow something up and it becomes a much bigger beast than it needs to be. And also, that we all need an ally, don't we? And someone you can trust. And there's a lot of these things, and I guess with your clients, this is a big deal. But for a lot of people, it's who do I really share some of my inner thoughts, some of my fears, some of, a bit vulnerable when you do that. So it's about having that person that you can go to where you've got that trusted relationship. There's a, they're not emotionally attached to you, but there's a trusted relationship there in a sort of safe environment where you can work through these situations and arrive at a point where you're comfortable with that. And as you say, there's a bit of challenging in there, but you know that they're standing in your corner. They're with you, and as I say to my clients, I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy, to achieve your goals and all that good stuff. And my job is to help you to get to that place. So, I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, the value of a coach, I'd always advocate the value that a coach will bring.
You just got to see the results, haven't you? I mean, not every coach is made equally either. I have to say, some fantastic coaches out there, and there's some very bad ones as well. And I mean, the industry's, it's accelerating.
Yeah, it's quite a big industry now, isn't it? You go on somewhere like LinkedIn, and everybody's a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, there are some fantastic ones and some I see and speak to a lot of coaches, and some fantastic ones, but then also there's some not so. So you just got to be careful of who you do pick as well. If you're going to work with a coach, you want one who's got good results, who's been in the industry a while, but also who you connect with, somebody who you connect with, because that's key. Somebody you feel comfortable opening up with. Absolutely. And my clients tell me things they don't even tell their wife.
Yeah.
Or husband.
I mean, isn't another one. That's a good one, because another stat I've got is there's something that it says, I think with some of the chief execs, they about 50% of them share things with their coach that they don't tell anyone else. So they don't tell their wife or those that are closest to them. So they need that, and they need that relationship, to that place to go to share some of those things.
Absolutely. And if you can have a coach, I mean, like I said, it's no coincidence these people who are very successful, have a coach. There's a reason for it. Do you know what I mean? It's part of that consistency, Stuart. It's part of that consistency. And, I think Mark Wahlberg says, if you're ready, you don't need to get ready. And part of that is having a coach in your corner, having that consistency, everything that we've talked about today. If you are ready, doing all the work, you never need to get ready. So you're prepared all the time. And, alluding to some of the conversations that we've had today where, how you manage with high pressure situations. If you're ready and you've had doing the right things.
Yeah. A lot easier, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I tell you what, Brett, this has been fantastic. Really great.
Likewise, brilliant.
To hear your stories, your experiences, the journey you've been on. Yeah. Get a bit of insight into some of the challenges that your clients face, and hopefully for everybody listening, well, I don't say hopefully, that would have really given us all things to think about and take away and put in the context of our daily lives. There's certainly a few things there for me to think about. So I really appreciate that. It's been great to have you on board.
Thanks for having me.
And just quickly before we wrap up, so I just say to everyone listening that there's a lot more podcasts coming. As I say, we've got some other really interesting people like yourself, Brett, who are going to come on board and talk about performance and leadership and challenges, and come up with some strategies to mitigate that and go on and realize your potential. So do subscribe to the podcast and then come and join us. And any questions, you can bring those up. I'd also say, if you want to connect with Brett, for those of you out there, if you've got any questions or there's anything you'd like to raise with him, check out the links in the description below. I'll just wrap up there. But thanks everyone for listening, and we'll speak to you soon. But thanks ever so much, Brett. You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadership and Lead podcast. I hope you found value in today's conversation and are inspired to take action on your own journey. To dive deeper, I invite you to complete the Leadership Self-Assessment. This is a powerful tool designed to help you gain insight into your strengths, identify areas for growth, and take the next step in your personal and professional development. You can access the assessment directly by scanning the QR code on the screen or visiting stellacoach.co.uk/self-assessment. And don't forget to follow our guests. You'll find their contact information below to learn more about their work and insights. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Leadership Unleashed podcast for more inspiring conversation. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode as we continue to unleash your potential.